The opinions expressed on the Custody Queen Show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal, professional legal advice. The persons discussed are fictional and not based on actual clients.
Thought it was love, had kids in between. You can count on us, we're the Custody Queens. Yeah, you can count on us, we're the Custody Queens.
Good morning, Go Country. It is Saturday and we are thriving. And if we're not, we're pretending we're thriving because that's life. We have an exciting guest today. We have Tiffany Belanger, co-sleeping safety captain. Is it 2.0? Oh, that's just, let me say that. That's your time. We have Tiffany Belanger, co-sleeping safety captain. And, you know, as a mom, and I know that we have so many mom listeners out here, we, you know, all have fears or ideas about co-sleeping. So I'm, you know, excited to get into that. But Tiffany we are so excited to have you. And, you know, as a co-sleeping safety captain, Tiffany is obsessed with ensuring that families can embrace co-sleeping with confidence and a peace of mind.
Yes.
All right. So Tiffany, just to give our listeners a little bit more about Tiffany, her expertise is in safety, comfort, and logistics. She provides invaluable insights and practical tips for parents navigating the world of co-sleeping. So join us. And Tiffany, thank you for being here as we discuss Tiffany's passion for creating safe sleeping environments and learn how she empowers families to build stronger bonds and prioritize safety.
And I think a lot of people might be scared or vulnerable and not really want to talk about this because, you know, if you Google co-sleeping, like I did probably 10 years ago when I had my first, you know, it is scary. You know, you go down a Reddit rabbit hole and everybody wants to give you their personal opinion of what they did and try to, you know, convince you one way or another. But I love that we're actually embracing this topic because, you know, I was just telling Tiffany that I have 3 kids and at any given night, I still have, you know, 2 kids in my bed, which obviously has its pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I said there is going to be a day where none of my kids, you know, aren't feeling well and want to jump into bed with mom. And so I try to embrace it and cherish those moments, especially since I am done having kids. You know, so I'm excited to have you, Tiffany.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on that, you know, it's not necessarily something that's for everyone. And we understand that, you know, sometimes people maybe feel passionately against it, but that's not the purpose of today. The purpose of today is to just provide some additional education and support for people that are more interested in it. And for people that maybe aren't interested in it can gain something or possibly some understanding. So thank you so much for being here, Tiffany. We're really excited to kind of get into it. But before we do, I'd like to play a little game with you and Kristen. You can answer along too, just to kind of do an icebreaker and get to know you a little bit. So I want to play a this or that game. I don't know if it's the official title of that game, but just kind of getting to know you. So Tiffany, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl, for sure.
Kristen?
Early bird.
Yeah, Kristen will text you at 2 a.m. Okay. I'm
That's usually when my morning starts.
teasing.
Not out of choice. Not out of choice.
All right. Soft blankets or firm mattresses?
Is this for me or is this the safety captain? Are we talking co-sleeping
This
or
is
just
you.
Oh, okay. Well, as
This
a
is
Taurus,
you.
I love to be cozy, so give me the coziest duvet and comforter ever.
Soft blanket, little giraffe, adult blanket for sure.
Family game night or movie marathon?
Movie marathon.
I would say movie marathon, even though I'll fall asleep before the first one ends.
Home cooked meals or dining out?
Dining out.
Dining out.
Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Mountain retreat.
I got to say mountain retreat too.
Mountain retreats, there's something about a mountain retreat.
The air.
It's like a spa for your soul.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're out of the mundane responsibilities and obligations of everyday life.
Yes.
All right, 2 more, and then we'll move on. Spa day or active outing?
Oh, spa day. For sure.
Spa day every weekend is an active
Yeah.
outing.
Spa
It's an
day.
active outing for me.
Yeah, spa. I'm concerned at the person that doesn't answer with the spa day. Planning ahead or going with the flow?
Going with the flow.
100% going with the flow.
hmm
All right.
All right. Cool, cool. All right, Tiffany, we have to ask, what inspired you to be a co-sleeping captain?
Okay, so my story is a lot like what you described at the beginning of this. It was 3 a.m. I was a new mom. I was on Google looking at Reddit, social media at the time. This was back in 2018, so it was different back then. If you type in something like how to sleep with your baby in your bed, you're going to find the scariest search results, just the horror stories. And of course, there's things that happen to babies, terrible things, if you're not prepared, if you don't know the very basic safety precautions. And it was really hard for me to find those online. I was digging and digging and digging, and I was sleep deprived and trying to figure out breastfeeding. And I'm sure you know, it's such a hard time to
It can
also
be
be
very
trying to do
dark.
research. Yeah. So I finally figured out how to safely co-sleep, and people do it all over the world. That's the most common sleep setup in the world is co-sleeping. Here in America, we do separate sleep. But once I got into all of that research, and I realized that there's, like I said, just a few basic things. It's kind of like, I like to say it's not rocket science. It's common sense stuff. And so once I figured that out, I started a blog and I started an Instagram page, and I just wanted to make it easier for other parents to find this information in the middle of the night because I wanted to save them all of that stress that I went through and all that time that I didn't get with my newborn baby. Like I just handed him to my husband and I was on my phone trying to do research and I was freaking out. I'm never going to get that time back with my baby who's now 6. And so I want to give that to other parents, kind of give them a peace of mind and help them, if they're co-sleeping for one night or 100 or 1,000, it really doesn't matter. As long as they know how to do it safely, they can have confidence and they'll know that their baby's safe right beside them.
Okay, so walk us through those safety, that because yes, it is a lot of basic common knowledge, but I think there are probably some additional safety measures that people may not think about right off the top of their head.
Yes, absolutely. So first, you want to see your baby's sleep surface. It needs to be firm, flat, level, and clear. Clear meaning no blankets, pillows, or stuffies, anything soft like that, which could be a suffocation risk. So if you can find a surface like that, if it's your adult mattress, or if it's their crib mattress, whatever it is, that's what they need, especially when they're very young and they have those big, heavy heads and the weak neck without, they can't really move their head very well in the beginning. That's when a really firm surface is important. So if you have a firm mattress at your house, or you can buy a mattress topper to put on your current mattress that's very firm, just put the fitted sheet on it and put your baby in the middle. And if you're familiar with the side lying breastfeeding position, that's how you'll sort of set yourself up. You're basically on your side with your baby's head at your chest level. And you kind of create this little pocket with your body. Your arm is up, kind of blocking your pillow so that your baby can't inch up into it. And your knees are bent in front of you so that your baby can't slide down or crawl off the bed that way. They're safe in this little pocket that you've created for them. And as I mentioned, this is how moms sleep all over the world. It's very instinctual. It's not like they get instructions or anything like that. It's just, I'm sure you've slept like that when you were a new mom.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And as I was saying earlier, it was more out of desperation of, going back and forth from the bassinet. And I think, you hit a breaking point at some point as a new mom where you're like, if I don't
Exactly.
sleep, this is going to be really bad. And so I think I
Exactly.
out of desperation.
Yes, like I never planned on co-sleeping. We had the crib that was non-toxic and expensive, and we just thought our newborn baby would just love to sleep in it. But no, he wanted nothing to do with it. And so it was either get up out of bed, try to put him in. Once he wakes up, take him out, start the whole process over to get him to sleep. Like it was just so exhausting physically and mentally. And so out of desperation, I realized that it was easier to set him up in a safe space in the middle of the bed than try to stay awake on the rocking chair holding him or try to put him in the bassinet. It felt so much safer to me, despite all of the things I found on Google. So I just kept trusting my intuition. And it was scary because I am definitely like a rule follower, you know what I mean? Or I was from birth. And so it's been an interesting process since I became a mom, like really trusting my heart and my intuition and being like, I think I know what's right for me and my baby. And just sort of like making those common sense, well researched decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Sam and I talk about this a lot. Is negative people with negative experiences are far more likely to go, post. And there is some valuable information on the internet. And I am the first person, hey Siri, what's the weather going to be like here? Or hey Siri, whatever the questions are. But Sam and I always say you should never take advice from Google or Instagram or a mom's group specifically regarding just using that solely. I see so many times where people are giving legal advice in chat rooms. And it's like you want to take it, you want to do your own research, and then you want to talk to some professionals, but you have to be very careful with what you're reading and what you're using on Google.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it brings up a good point, and that's why we really wanted to have Tiffany on, is that you have to do your own research, certainly, and talk to whomever your support people are, whatever professionals, and make the right decision for you. But it's important, I think, to really consider something like this, if it is for you, with someone who has experience doing this, has experienced it themselves, has a story like yours, Tiffany, where you were kind of reaching out and couldn't really find that information in a collected and gathered venue for people to kind of look through. So I think it brings up a kind of an interesting topic, in that people really do need to kind of hear from other people's experience to kind of understand and consider maybe if it is a fit for them. Maybe they didn't consider it before, but now they're considering it.
Right. Exactly.
Can you share a success story from like a family that you've worked with and kind of how it changed that new mom or that family or the child? Kind of give us some good feeling vibes.
Well, it definitely improves the breastfeeding relationship. I've noticed that a lot. So moms who really want to breastfeed and that's important to them, it helps because your baby is literally right there next to your breast all night, right? So research shows that babies will nurse for longer, and they'll nurse more times throughout the night. And then it also shows that babies will end up nursing over a longer period of time, like months total, if they co-sleep. Because when you're trying to nurse and then do your little rocking or whatever your routine is, do the blackout blinds or whatever, and put your baby in the bassinet. Yeah, that's really disruptive to breastfeeding. And sometimes moms, that's when they'll turn to sleep training, and that is where you separate. There's various methods of that, but that's where you will completely separate yourself from the baby and, quote, teach them how to sleep on their own. But there's no way to sort of mix sleep and breastfeeding when you're doing sleep training. And that's the thing about co-sleeping. They're sort of intertwined. And if you really look at the science of it, like, we were designed to do this, because when you're breastfeeding, the hormones going through your body will make you drowsy. And the sucking that your child is doing makes them tired. So it's like we were supposed to sleep and nurse and stuff like that interchangeably throughout the night, on and off throughout the night. So when you look at isn't that fascinating?
It is when you put it that way, it is very interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And unfortunately, at least in America right now, your doctors, I don't know if it's because of liability or they don't have the time, but they're not, yeah, but they're not going to explain it to you. They'll give you a packet of information when you leave the hospital, and it won't say anything about co-sleeping. Like, I would love what they do in the UK, which is like, it says, ideally, your baby will sleep separately in a crib, but if they refuse or you have no other choice, here's how to set up a safe co-sleeping setup in your bed. And that's so much better, because abstinence only education, which is kind of what we have here, when doctors sort of act like nobody co-sleeps and they don't want to talk about it. That's when you see all the horror stories in the news, because parents bring their babies into their bed in desperation, but they don't clear out the big duvet or the pillows, or they put their baby on their tummy. And we know it's really important to put your baby on their back. And when you're sleeping next to them and you're co-sleeping in that position that I described earlier, they are on their back. They'll go to their side to nurse, and then they'll unlatch and fall asleep and go back onto their back. There's no way for them to fall forward onto their tummy, which is dangerous.
Do you not have any blankets on your bed at all when you're sleeping?
I have blankets up to my waist, but the way you're sleeping with your legs sort of bent out in front of you, that keeps your blanket away from your baby. So I would just wear a long sleeve top and a big, like thick blanket or two below my waist and socks. And I figured it out. But that's something I talk about a lot too through my work is how to make it bearable, how to make it comfortable. Because if you are going to do this for a year or two, you got to find ways to enjoy it. You don't want to be like feeling it, you don't want it to be miserable the whole time. So that's a lot of stuff we talk about.
Yeah, after I had my third, I mean, I would fear the nighttime just because I was so tired and I was so depleted, and obviously my hormones were changing. It was, closer to 40 when I had my third one, and I would literally get anxiety about
Yeah,
how the night was going to go. How many times was I going to wake up? How many, and I would get debilitating anxiety as soon as the sun would start setting.
yes, that's common. I know. I'm so sorry. I wish you felt I wish you had some people to talk to and you felt like you were doing the right thing and you could get through it. That's so
Yeah.
hard and so common.
I think so many of us women, we don't give ourselves enough grace. That there are alternatives, there are options, and I truly think everything with parenting, you have to do what's right for you and your family and your baby. But I think we feel like we have to be super mom all the time, every second of the day, and that's just not reality.
Exactly. And then we also have research that shows a lot of parents start their babies off at the beginning of the night in a crib. But like around 3 or 4 a.m., I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes like their sleep pressure is sort of worn off. They're like, it's harder for them to continue sleeping throughout the rest of the night after about 4 a.m. So a lot of those parents will then bring their baby into their bed because they've noticed that when their baby's cuddled up against you, it's much easier for them to fall back asleep and sleep till like 6 or 7 a.m. But they don't consider themselves co-sleepers because they start their baby out in the crib at the beginning of the night. So you might be out there talking to your friends and you don't really know how it actually goes down throughout the course of the night. And you might be feeling like you're the only one. I know, I know. I wish we felt like we had a safe space where we could really be honest with each other and we wouldn't have shame.
Now I wake up every night between 2 and 3. So do you have any suggestions for adults?
I do the same. And I just think about all the things on my list. Is that what you think about too?
Yes,
Like all the things you have to do.
the brain starts going, and it doesn't matter if I go to bed. If I'm so tired, I go to bed at 8, or if I go to bed at 1 in the morning. It's literally
Yeah.
like clockwork, 3 a.m., somewhere between 2:30 and 3:15 every single night.
Same here. Same
And
here.
then, the checklist, unlimited checklist through the
Yep.
brain start going.
hmm
Okay, now what tips do you have for families? I know we talked about the firm mattress. I know we talked about the positioning, but
hmm
are there any other, like what can dads do? Like how do we involve like the other family members?
Now, some families have found that it's better if dad sleeps in a separate room because he gets more sleep and he's more helpful during the day. And your relationship with dad is stronger because he's getting, regular full sleep. So some families split up and the mom will just co-sleep in one room with the baby and the dad's doing his thing over there. Others want the dad there. And so if you want your partner in the bed with you, put him behind you so that only you are facing your baby. If you have to, as your baby gets older and you're afraid of them rolling off the bed, you can put your partner on the other side. But research again has shown that it's safer for the baby to be just right next to you. No other toddler, like no older sibling, no dog in the bed, no dogs. Yes, I'm
No
sorry.
dogs. I'm just kidding.
No, I know. Even the most calm dog, they're unpredictable. So just to be safe. Um,
What
yeah.
are some of the common misconceptions about co-sleeping?
Well, relationships, that's a big one. People think that when you have a baby in your bed, your marriage is going to suffer or your relationship will suffer. But as I said, sometimes it can actually strengthen it. Or maybe your partner really steps up and when the baby wakes up and needs a diaper change, he handles all of that, does all the logistical stuff. And you just get to lay in bed and he'll bring the baby to you and you nurse from the other side or something. Like that's a lot different than if you were on your own, you were getting up and going to the bassinet or trying to swaddle the baby and like you could actually stay horizontal. You could stay in your bed all night if you're a co-sleeping mom. So that's something that a lot of moms out there who are doing the bassinet and crib thing, they would just kill for that because they're just up on their feet all night long. So that's a misconception. Other people think that once you start, even if you do it for one night, you will be co-sleeping till your baby's 12. That's not As you could attest, right? That is not, at some point, they're going to want their own space.
Yeah, and then they come, I've noticed that when they're not feeling well or they've had a rough day at school, but I think that's just more of the emotional attachment that they just want to be by mom and dad or mom. I notice that my kids are usually far more clingy to me, when they're not feeling well, and I think that's just natural.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely want to go play PS5 with my husband.
Totally.
Mom's not nearly as good as FIFA that dad is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in countries across the world where co-sleeping is the norm, kids usually stop by like 10 or certainly by puberty. They do not want to be near you at all. So it is not a lifelong death sentence or anything. Parents are very scared of this, but you don't have to make it all or nothing. You could do it, like, as I mentioned earlier, just for half the night. You could just do it every once in a while, depending, like, if your kid is sick or if they're adjusting to like a new school or there's something going on that emotionally is upsetting them and they want to be closer to you at that point. Then if you feel confident that you can set up a safe space for them in your bed, then welcome them in. Enjoy it while you can, because they won't be there forever. And you're just providing them with so much security from birth, from such a young age. Like, I wish I had that when I was a child,
Is there any concern about the type of sleeper a parent is? And I'm speaking from the premise of not being a parent myself, and sleeping with my dog in the bed, but
And
I am a wild
anywhere at any time.
and I can sleep anywhere, anytime. Like, literally, I could race you to sleep. And I guess maybe it's a mother's instinct checking
Totally.
kind of thing. But is there any concern that you should be aware of if you have like a underlying health condition or something that could make you maybe not a good fit for what otherwise would be a good fit situation?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that, because we've been talking about bed sharing when your child's literally in your bed. But if you had a health condition or you needed to take a medication that made you drowsy, then what you could do is attach a sidecar to your mattress. Or you could put your mattress down on the floor and put your baby's crib mattress right next to you. That's called bedside sleeping. So it's not bed sharing, but it's still co-sleeping because you're still within arm's reach and you can be right there to stroke their hair or like grab them and pull them over to breastfeed when you need to. So that still counts. But that was great because, yes, not every single mom or parent can safely bed share. So you definitely want to make sure you're sober when you co-sleep. Of alcohol or drugs, like prescription or recreational, of course, you want to be taking this as seriously as possible. But we have data that shows that breastfeeding moms sleep in a lighter stage of sleep. And you're also on your side. You sleep in a deeper sleep when you're on your stomach. I know that's true for me. When I'm really tired, go right to my stomach and I just pass out. So imagine you're on your side and you're breastfeeding. Unfortunately, you won't be going as deep as you might otherwise, but that means it's so much easier for you to wake up if you hear a little sound from your baby, or if you feel they're starting to overheat or something like that. We have really cool video studies done in sleep labs where they show moms sleeping next to their babies all night. And it's really fascinating to see when the baby starts to stir, right away the mom wakes up. Like they're in sync.
Mm-hmm.
I can attest to that. I used to be able one that could sleep with, through a thunderstorm, and now it literally is, I could hear a rock being thrown across the street with all my
Yeah. That's so interesting to me because I always joke, I'm like, you could probably break into my house and steal my comforter and I wouldn't wake up. Like, I just wouldn't. I'm out. But
yeah, I'll hear the dog barking 3 neighborhoods away, and I think that it just comes with the territory. I think it's something that you inherently, unfortunately, sometimes, and fortunately inherit. But Samantha, I was going back to Sam. But Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing all this, because what Sam and I like to do is give people information. Our biggest thing that we love to do is educating people, and allowing people to make decisions in their personal life, their professional life, on what's right for them. And just like hiring an attorney is not a one size fits all, co-sleeping, nursing, none of that is a one size fits all. But I do really welcome your information, because more often than not, you only hear about the horror stories or the lawsuits or the deaths. And you have to remember those, everything can be done with information and also doing it safely. I don't recommend you coming home from the bar at 2 a.m. on your first night out, with your girlfriends and trying it for the first time. Obviously, like anything, there you have to be cool, calm, collected, and safe. But
Yeah.
Sam, I
We're
wanted
just-
to break into an email question really quick. Do you have 5 minutes?
Who, me?
Oh, no, Sam, I wanna break into an email question because we have about a few minutes left.
Sure.
Okay. And this person sent it in a couple times, so I wanted to make sure that we answer this question. And if Tiffany, you want to join in and give us any feedback, that is great. But the question is, hi, Queens. I have a question for you because I'm really uncertain about what to do. My ex-husband has been remarried and they recently welcomed a new baby. His wife is currently breastfeeding and my toddler is still breastfeeding as well. Now she is breastfeeding my child when he is in their care. Do I have any rights to stop this?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, I think every situation is certainly unique, but I'm not sure I've heard that one before. I can be very empathetic and understand why that would be a major concern and something that you may be either talking to the other side about, meaning the other parent, and or bringing those concerns to the court if you need to. If it can't be resolved outside of that, I think everyone has personal parental rights, and sometimes that can get conflated or confused with either parent maybe getting to make their own decisions on their own time. I do think that's a highly sensitive personal decision, and I think that both parents likely have a right to make that call one way or the other. So I don't think it would be unreasonable for the parent who's concerned with maybe somebody else stepping in and taking on that role, that's not a good fit for their family, that's not appropriate, and asking for an order to accommodate that. I think that although there's not a specific code section in our family law book about breastfeeding prohibitions, I do think that would fall squarely into a best interest analysis, and I do think that there would be a rational avenue for someone to object to that continuing.
Yeah, in my mom hat, I can tell you that if I was in this situation and I found out that another woman was breastfeeding my child, that I would hire an attorney and be into court tomorrow. I think that's crossing so many boundaries, and if it's not something that's agreed upon between both parties or parents, I just think that it's absent a life-saving measure or need, I think it's grossly inappropriate. In my attorney hat, I can tell you that if I got this call and we were talking face to face on Zoom, I would be filing an emergency hearing pretty quickly. That is just something that should be talked about between parents, but that is not something that should be done by not the biological mother, in my opinion.
Well put.
Anything to add on from your experience there?
No, I've never heard of that. And I just want to send love to that parent who wrote you, because I can imagine that is such a violating feeling and a helplessness. And I'm so sorry that happened.
Co-parenting is hard enough, and we're trying to uplift, the co-parenting and the blended families and the stepmoms. But I think that is seriously crossing a boundary on every level. And so if you're listening to this and it's your question, I'm sorry we didn't get to it sooner, but I would love for you to call Sam and I so we could have a Zoom. You can call us at 1-800-419-7772. That's 1-800-419-7772. And there is no judgment here with the Custody Queens. So if you have a question, whether you think it's crazy or it's, a question that everybody wants to ask every day, we are happy to walk through the process with you. What are your rights? What are the benefits? What are the potential consequences? And we do offer free case assessments. So call us at 1-800-419-7772. Tiffany, how can our listeners reach you if they want further information or coaching regarding co-sleeping?
I'm at cosleepy.com or Instagram at cosleepy. I'm on all the socials, but Instagram is my favorite.
Perfect. And we will make sure we include all of that information on the screen if you are watching this on YouTube or listening on any other streaming platforms. Everyone listening today, it has been a pleasure sharing this 30 minutes with you, and we look forward to seeing you next Saturday and every Saturday on Go Country 105. And remember, let blood rule